Hello, I'm Dr. Omar Bey, and this is A Moment in Medicine. Our focus is health, education, and wellness. Our goal is for each and every one of us to have that opportunity to grow old in good health. Welcome to our show. Well, guess what? We're here again with a fabulous show, and I have a fabulous guest to talk about a fabulous topic, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about caring and sharing. And remember, let me know what your med moments are. Those moments where, goodness gracious, that arthritis is just killing me, and I got to go see that doctor because every time I take a step, this leg hurts. That's a med moment. We want to hear about your med moments, so you can email me at www.medmoments.com or tweet me at MedMoments. Well, on with the show. We have a topic today. It's called childhood obesity. And I have the perfect person to describe, all of the things that obese children go through in our neighborhoods, and our cousins and our sons and daughters. This is a problem, and this is a problem that we all should know about because we need to solve it. I have the perfect person to talk about this. Her name is Wando Enyoku, Dr. Wando Enyoku. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
All right. From now on, I'm going to call you Dr. A. Okay. Is that okay? All right. Thank you very much. All right. So we're going to start off with this topic because it's such an important topic. And first thing I'd like to know is, what is obesity? Tell me what obesity is.
Obesity talks about the measure of body fat and how much body fat is carried on the body relative to height and with respect to the age and gender in children. In adults, you look at one number, but in children, because they're constantly growing, you're comparing it for the gender, boys and girls, at different ages, because what might be heavy for a 10-year-old is not heavy for a 16-year-old. So, so that's why we have that measure. It's sort of a moving figure, but basically it measures how much fat that child is carrying relative to how much weight that child is carrying relative to their height.
Okay. I understand, in doing some preliminary reading for this show, I understand that this is an epidemic in our country at this point. Is it an epidemic worldwide or just in the United States?
It really is an epidemic in the United States right now, but it is creeping all across the globe. Over the past 30 years, it has tripled. The number of children considered overweight or obese in the United States has actually multiplied by 3. So that is an epidemic. An epidemic is when you have a problem that everywhere you look, somebody's got it and somebody's dealing with it. So yes, that's why we use that terminology.
Right. Tell me about obesity in children, and does it usually start at birth? Are most obese children born obese?
No, they're not. Most children are born a perfectly normal weight. Obesity is something that it is one of those diseases we talk about being multifactorial. There are multiple things that contribute to it, and some of it is the family we come from. So you've heard people talk about how we're big boned in our family, right. So that's a part of it. But what we're eating, how much of it we're eating, and how active our lifestyles are, all those things contribute, and they start to contribute very early. So for children, you talk about children who are breastfed. Breastfeeding has just about gone out of the window in our community, but breastfed children have a healthier weight. They're less obese. And so right from that first decision you start to make about your child, you're already determining what channel that you're putting that child on. And so where do we start? Right at the beginning.
So you're telling me that artificial formula, even though we try to make it perfect, it's not perfect for the child when they're that small, when those cells are still growing and trying to develop. It has maybe the combination of fats to whatever carbohydrates and proteins is just not right.
It's not just that the mixture of the formula is not right.
Okay.
It's that the whole process of formula feeding versus breastfeeding is different. So for example, a breastfed baby self-regulates. They can decide, I'm full, I'm going to sleep, I'm done. But if you're a mom and you've made a bottle of formula,
Right.
you're not happy until that bottle is empty. So very early, you start to teach them, empty your plate. Don't leave food on your plate. Empty your bottle. But if the mother was nursing the kid, you put the child on the breast, the child breastfeeds, they go to sleep. When they're full, they stop. You don't know how much they got, but you can see that the child is satisfied. So that dynamic starts to build in very early.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Now, I know that there are two concepts. It's how much you eat and what you eat. Is one more important than the other?
I think what you eat starts to play a role very early.
Okay.
So we talk about energy dense and nutrient poor foods. So
Say that again.
energy dense and nutrient poor.
Okay.
So it's got a lot of calories,
Right.
but there's not that much good food in it.
Oh,
So
gotcha. I got you.
And those foods tend to be cheap. So you can buy a whole bucket of fries
Right.
for not a lot of money. You'll be full. There'll be a lot of calories in it, but all you've got is carbohydrates and grease.
Right.
You haven't got any vitamins, you haven't got any vegetables, you have no proteins. It's just a lot of energy.
Right.
But your stomach is full.
Right.
That child is not crying anymore. So
Gotcha.
that's part of why you start to see the epidemic of obesity being higher in poor families. Because because better food costs more.
Right.
So if you have to buy a nice well-rounded cut of meat with vegetable and a little bit of starch, that's a more expensive meal than some fries and a bucket of fries and a piece of chicken.
Yeah.
So you start to see how that dynamic starts to play a role in your life very early.
Interesting. Now, I remember back when my children were young, trying to get them to eat vegetables was no small chore. Let me tell you, how do you do it? How do you sit them down and say, eat it, and 10 minutes later it's still there, and 20 minutes later it's still there? What do we do?
You keep trying. Basically, you keep trying. Children are like adults. They like salty
Right.
and sweet. So anything that's salty is easily accepted. Anything that's sweet, they'll readily accept it. Vegetables are not generally salty or sweet. And research has shown that it actually can take up to 10 times of trying for a child to accept a new food. So you just have to keep trying.
Keep trying.
Now, if we as a parent are not eating vegetables, who is going to be trying?
True.
Right? We have to first be conscious of what we are doing, what we're modeling. And so you have a mother who will say, well, I don't like broccoli, but I'm going to try and be a good mother. And I'll offer it to my kid one time. Well, he didn't like it. Done. Right? But you have to keep trying. You have to get over what your feeling of it is, and keep offering it. Eventually, a child will adapt to whatever you insist they adapt to. But if you give it to them one time and they say no and you stop and go back to the salty and sweet, they'll be very happy eating those fries and drinking that soda.
Right.
But you want them to learn healthier habits, and we have to model it.
Okay. Are there diets for children? I mean, you understand what I'm saying. I know for adults, they have all kinds of diets out there for us. They got the orange juice diet and the grapefruit diet and the potato chip, whatever diet. But real healthy, good diets that are plans that are put together, are they there for children?
Well, as a veteran of the diet wars, I can tell you there are no diet for anybody.
Okay.
Once you get into the mindset of diet, you've really lost.
You've lost.
You have
Okay.
to start thinking in terms of healthy lifestyle.
Okay.
Making healthy choices every day at every moment. So for children, we can do simple things. Increase the vegetable content of their diet.
Right.
Make sure that every day your child has 5 servings of fruit and vegetables. So you don't have to say you're going to have this diet by this name. No.
Right.
Try to make sure that child has 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Eliminate sugar-sweetened drinks. Those juices, those sodas. Most of us have heard that soda is bad, but we haven't heard that juice can be just as bad. The sugar content of some of those things that masquerade as juice can be actually quite scary. So make different choices. And so we're still talking about what we eat. What about our activity?
Right.
Our lifestyle, our children's lifestyles has changed so much. Back in the day, and I'm not going to age myself, but you got back from school, you put down your bag, you ran around outside, you played until it was time for dinner. Who's doing that anymore? The child gets inside, they're in front of a television, they're watching one thing or the other, or they're on a video game, and don't get me started on all those tablets out there. I can't even keep track of the names anymore.
Right.
But what it means is that these children are much more sedentary. Right. They're not, sedentary means they're not active, right. They're not running, they're not playing, they're not biking, they're not shooting hoops. All those things that generally burn energy in a child has been taken away. So the child is sitting, and they grow up to be adults that drive everywhere. So the problem continues.
Right, I understand. Let's just step back just for a minute. I understand how difficult it even for an adult to diet, or I shouldn't say diet, to eat healthier on a consistent basis. Is there a psychological component as far as the children are concerned that we have to deal with to get a successful weight loss program through to them?
When you're dealing with weight, it's never just about what you see. It's also about how you feel. Because a child who is heavier than their contemporaries tends to be teased. They tend to be bullied. Right. And so you have to deal with that, because sometimes when the child is being picked on, they amplify the thing that they're picking on them for. So the child is overweight and the other kids are calling them all kinds of names. And what will they do? They'll retreat in a corner with a bag of chips. Right. Which compounds the problem that they have. So we have to address that. We have to address the self-esteem issues and those things that impact that child. Because if that child doesn't feel good about themselves, then it makes it more difficult for them to make the right choice. It makes it more difficult for them to want to be out with the other kids being active, because they're afraid of what somebody's going to say to them. So to that extent, absolutely, there is a psychological component that we have to be aware of.
To deal with, Now, what about as far as I understand that there are school lunch programs that have seemed to be helping. Tell me about the school lunch programs that are out there and the good things that are happening with that.
Over the years, what happened in the schools was that there wasn't a lot of emphasis paid to what was being served in the cafeterias. Okay. So the kids would have pizza listed as a vegetable, for instance, and that sort of thing. So over these past 3 years, since this epidemic has become more recognized, a lot of effort has been made to change the quality of the food that's available for children in schools. So now when you go around the public schools, you'll see that they're starting to make different choices. They're making healthier options available. They're making sure that the milk is skimmed or 2% or 1% milk. Right. They're making sure that they have water rather than soda. They're making sure there's an option of a salad, that sort of thing. And that effort is being ramped up steadily. I'm quite pleased to say that the whole society is beginning to rise up and recognize that we all have to have all hands on deck to reverse this tidal wave of this epidemic that we're facing.
Right. Diseases, okay? Obesity in children, I can imagine that child has so many years to live, all right? And the start that they're getting is off kilter. What's the likelihood that diseases can be, that this child is going to contract diseases more than the next child that is normal weight?
Very, very likely. The biggest tragedy of childhood obesity really is that it skips over all the healthy years that child should have had. So you start to see an 8-year-old on cholesterol medication that his grandpa is on. This is something that would have taken until grandpa's age to develop. But because of the obesity, it's showing up now. You see a 10-year-old on high blood pressure medicine along with their dad. This never used to be the case. Obesity puts them at risk for what we call comorbid conditions. We call them comorbid conditions because we don't know who is the cause and who is the effect. Right. So, but we do know that things like adult onset diabetes, it was called adult onset diabetes for a reason, because it took until adulthood before your different choices started to catch up with you and caused you to become diabetic. Right. But now you have that type 2 adult onset diabetes in a young 10, 11-year-old child. Right. So they're starting at that age to start to have the effects of diabetes that would normally I put in parentheses, have started at a much later age. And so because it's starting much earlier, all the side effects, the complications They kick in earlier. That child starts to suffer much earlier. I had a child who'd had 2 knees replaced at age 13. And so you say, well, what is this child looking forward to? And so you have to start to think about those diseases. They're very, very real. And, you know, they're very scary. And when you look at it in an adorable little child, you think, what is the prospect for this child? That's why we all have to be on board.
Right. What about as far as coming in contact with dietitians that can set meals and get them to understand what calories are and what proteins are and why they need certain amount of proteins or don't need this many calories? Are there avenues out there that the kids can come in contact with these specialists that can really take it home to them so they will truly understand what, you know, because they never listen to the parents. You understand what I'm saying? But we don't know anything. If someone else has to approach this in a way that they can hear it, that's what I'm trying to say, so that they can hear it.
So that's the role, I think, of the physician, the primary care provider, is to provide a safe place for the family to have this conversation. To say, you know, we can talk about this. Are you concerned about this? Let me help you. I can say something quick. And this is my thing. I tell people, remember, if you need to tell them something quick, tell them a quick prescription for healthy living, 5210. Eat 5 servings of fruit and vegetables every day.
Okay.
Limit screen time to no more than 2 hours a day. Exercise 1 hour every day. And eliminate juices and sodas.
Okay. That is so important. You're going to say that again. Well, go through that again for me. Go through that again.
5, 2, 1, and 0.
Okay.
5 means you want to try and have 5 servings of fruit and vegetables every day.
Okay.
2 means limit screen time. And by screen time, I tell them it's not just TV now.
Right.
It's the TV, it's the iPhone, it's the iPad, it's anything shiny with an on and off button.
Right.
Limited to no more than 2 hours a day. 1, exercise 1 hour every day. Break a sweat. You can dance for an hour. You can hula hoop for an hour. You don't have to join a gym. Just break a sweat for an hour every day. And eliminate sugar sweetened beverages. That means no juice, no soda. And the kids look at me like, oh my God.
I hear you.
But it makes a difference.
I hear
It's a quick measure. And then you have multidisciplinary programs. So at the Children's Hospital, we have a program called Kids Fit Newark. And at that program, they can meet with a dietitian, they can meet with a behavioral therapist, they can meet with a physical therapist and a physician. And all those people put all hands on deck to begin to help the family.
I always say that in getting a patient to lose weight, I can't compete with fast foods. Can you give me an idea, and I'm dealing with adults, can you give me an idea of the struggles that you deal with when the kids are walking home and, you know, that fast food is right there and all their friends wants to go in? How do we handle that?
Carefully. Really, as what you have to give that child is a toolkit. You have to give them a way to navigate it.
Right.
It is very difficult for the child to be hanging out with their friends and everybody's going to a fast food place and they're going to stand outside. Very difficult.
Right.
We need to give them, you know, you can go in there, but this is what you get. So that you don't feel left out. Because for children, belonging is everything.
It's everything.
So, you know, you don't want to take away that peer belonging that's important to them, but you also want to teach them that they can make independent decisions. And so you need everybody involved to have that conversation. Right. To help the child to understand, but also to help the parent to understand, because the parent is often the decision maker. And fast food is fast food for a reason, because I don't have time to cook, so here, go pick up dinner, right? So the parent needs to understand that these choices are not the healthiest choices. And sometimes the parents don't understand that. I tell people the parents are all trying to do the best they know how for their children. So we have to give them the information. You can make different choices. And so we have to teach them what are the different choices you can make. Can you have a salad? Because some of those fast food places now offer healthier options. So help to direct them to those rather than the other ones.
Right. Now, they always tell me you are what you eat. And the only way that is it true, the only way you gain weight is if you eat more than you burn up, in a sense, as far as calories are concerned. Am I in the right ballpark?
Well, I believe that you are in the right ballpark. You certainly, I'm trying to see how we define, you are what you eat in terms of you need to burn more calories than you take in.
Right.
But you also have to be careful about the kind of calories.
Oh.
The kind of things you eat.
Okay.
Because there's some things you eat that make you want to eat more. And so you end up, on the wrong side of that equation very quickly. So if you're eating refined sugars and processed foods and a lot of white foods, they raise your blood sugar quickly and they crash. So they make you constantly want to eat more. Right. If you drink, sugar sweetened beverages, the sugar in it hits the bloodstream quickly. It raises your blood sugar, and because it drops quickly, it makes you want something else faster.
Right.
Well, if you had something healthier, if you had oatmeal, for instance, for breakfast, it burns slowly. So it raises your blood sugar slowly. So you don't get that, I have to have something to eat right now because the sugar just dropped suddenly. Right. So yes, you are what you eat, but you're also the quality of what you eat.
Excellent. I'm just thinking about something. Is it worth a family going to modified therapy or psychotherapy and do it as a family to get a better outcome for the kids?
When at the program that we run at the Children's Hospital, you never have just the kids.
Okay.
You have to have everybody involved.
Right.
You have the decision makers, the parents, the people who do the shopping, people who do the cooking in the house. Everybody needs to be on the same page.
Right.
You can't say that because you have one child who's heavier than the other. Johnny's got to eat broccoli and,
right,
healthy food, and Jane can have burgers and fries. Because the burgers and fries aren't healthy for Jane, even if she's not right now showing the manifestation in terms of her weight.
Right.
Sometimes the parents will say to me, well, why can't we eat what we want? We're not the ones who are overweight.
Right.
But the truth is that it comes back to what I said initially, which is it's not about a diet. It's about all of us making better choices. Because if you have 5 servings of fruit and vegetables every day, that's good for everybody.
Right.
No matter what your size.
No matter what.
If you eliminate the sugar sweetened beverages, it's good for everybody. So we want to do things like that. We want to encourage families to sit at a table and eat together.
Right.
Those things which a lot of us grew up with have been lost in our society.
Yeah.
And the more of that we can get back, the better it will be.
Excellent, excellent. Now the thing of it is that I know that over the last several years, how many years? I don't know how many years. And I'm not sure why this happened, but there was a decrease in the vegetable intake. There's a decrease in milk intake and increase in the fruit juices and soda. And when you talked about that, do you think corporate America has kind of tweaked us, either commercials or are we at the mercy of corporate America on this one?
Well, let's think about that for a minute. Let's just go back and think of what used to pass as a large soda 20 years ago.
True.
And look today at what passes for a large soda. I mean, it's a veritable bucket. Right. You look at this and you go, who is selling this thing? Right. And why does anybody need to drink something that an adult needs 2 hands to hold? Right. But if you look at the price, it looks like, well, that's 75 cents and this one is 60 cents. So I'm buying the 75 cents one. And so it's changed. The whole environment changed. And so that's why it's such a challenge for everybody.
Right.
Because everything around us is different. The soda bottles used to be little cute bottles when we were growing. Yeah. Now each one of them is like a gallon. Like really? And so everything has changed. So yes, marketing has changed, availability of food has changed, and everything is right there at your reach and so much supersized.
Right.
And all of that has had an impact.
You think it's like if you lived in Texas, everything has to be big. Everything's big from Texas. If you're from America, everything has to be, or it's just not right.
Yes, that's a short answer.
Yeah. And in summing up, I just want to go back over some of the things that we've covered. Number one is that, like the key to all of this is is getting an understanding about weight and about calories, but also is there a focus of prevention as well? You know, as far as the kids are concerned and how they eat, and kind of hitting it before it happens.
Prevention is the key. It is so much easier to stop it. Once it gets going, it's really hard to reverse.
Okay.
So we talked about breastfeeding.
Right.
Encourage that, because right from the beginning you start to reduce the risk of that child becoming overweight or obese. You know, start to teach them portion sizes. Introduce vegetables early on. Don't give up because the child pushed it out once or twice.
Right.
Keep trying. Encourage that child to drink water rather than juices and sodas,
Right.
so they don't get used to that intense sweetness. And prevention is very important. And remember to play. You know, we've forgotten to play. Run around with your kid, roll around. All that is activity. It burns calories, not just for the child, but for the parent as well. And the screen, you know, some of us use it as a babysitter, but it's not the best. We need to find other things, because then, you know, I tell the moms, you need to limit screen time to 2 hours a day. And, well, what do we do instead?
Yeah.
And so we have to start early on thinking about those things. What can we do instead? And it's important.
You know, give me that little rhyme that you had, 5. I love this. I love this.
5, 2, 1, and 0.
Oh my goodness gracious. I'm telling you, it was such a good pleasure, a great pleasure to have you here and talk about this topic, a very, very, very important topic. Thank you, Dr. A, for coming to visit, and we'll have to get you back again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All righty, all right. Well, in closing, remember, sharing and caring. www.medmoments.com. Email me. I want to know what you're thinking out there. Also, you can tweet me at MedMoments. Don't forget the S, that's MedMoments. All righty. Never institute any change in your medical therapy before you consult your physician. I trust each and every one of you continued good health. I'm Dr. Omar Bey, and this is A Moment in Medicine. Until next time, peace to you all. Very, very.
On sodas and stuff, but my kids have not.
All right.